Hello and welcome to that Deacon on YouTube. I could start off reciting an amusing story which will eventually lead towards a subject reflecting an era of doom. I am also aware that I am of an age where I might say that everything is going to hell, stand on my porch if I have one, yelling at kids going home from school, in all manner of things. Keeping in mind that I did teach high school and community college in the arts discipline and could hardly be thought of as stuffy or conservative. But as one grows older, each decade as one more they used to in a conversation or recollection. But there's more to this than grumbling, saying they used to. Since the pandemic, society has been knocked upside the head by failing norms and ever-changing variations of truth. Add to this the continual chaos from Washington with mixed messaging, adding to a sense of imbalance and irrational dreams from both left and right. It's enough to drive everyone crazy. But I'm not telling you anything you don't know or feel. Switching gears, I mention this because in every theological dilemma, one must first state and denote a problem. And in my thinking, there are three. Three screaming above all the disorder poses an interesting ethical malady, the first of the theo problems.
The first problem is a disruption of normative ethics as far as utilitarianism is concerned. Utilitarianism is a consequentialist ethical theory, asserting that the most moral action is the one that maximizes overall happiness or well-being. The philosophy is broadly divided into several core branches. Act utilitarianism, a utilitarian theory of ethics that highlights the morality of an action is determined by its usefulness to the people. Morality is on the effect of a good action that benefits the most people. Consequences are on the action. Rule utilitarianism, a utilitarian theory of ethics that highlights the morality of an action is when it conforms to a certain rule that leads to the greatest good or happiness of the people. Morality is on following a certain rule or code of conduct when doing an action that has benefits to most people. Consequences are on the rules followed. More broadly, an ethical act leads to maximize happiness and well-being for the affected individuals. And that's the problem, as utilitarianism's consequence affects maybe 1% of the population. So the end justifies the means, claims that a goal, if morally strong, any method is acceptable so long as the goal is achieved.
I think most people would agree that an act depends on whether it is right or wrong, and that people can't be used as a means to an end. But this is just one of the moral and ethical problems we face.
Here's where we step out of ethics. What happens to the ethical and moral reasonability when one or more people decide to win at all cost? If you guessed no moral equivalence, you guessed right. When one group decides to use this tactic, trust in everything related to the win becomes tainted and dirty. The result are broken relationships, burnout, and financial troubles. Unfortunately, this is the state of our national credibility. Ethics demands truth, not for an ethical foundation, but for ethical discernment. The problem is, truth is in very short supply, and variations of a particular truth is for sale, not for the perfect bidder, but the perfect spin to hide reality. This brings us to the third ethics problem: pick and choose news. Podcasts abound, and anyone with a camera can put on a news show claiming authenticity and a modicum of truth. Extreme left or right, it doesn't matter as long as people watch. Then there's legacy media, who have struggled to keep up with the changing times and have been at odds with keeping an audience and also fighting lawsuits from the government bent on denying a free press.
I was in college when Watergate was in the news, and as President Carter was in the hot seat during the Iran hostages, the news people asked very tough questions and did not let up with follow-ups. Now the current executive makes some disparaging remark about a female reporter, or walks out of the room, or just plain lies. Then there's the propaganda media, who at news conferences accept any outlandish excuse or the latest in conspiracy theories. And then in interviews, they ask softball questions. And if the question is too challenging, the interviewer is fine furnishing the answers.
This is what we're left with as we stand on a normative ethical cliff: a disregard of utilitarianism, winning at all cost, a deranged concept of truth.
I think you notice that I'm not brought up a Christian ethics, and that's for the next video. We will restate what I call theo problems and see what Christian ethics have to say, and how the Episcopalian response might be. So see you next time as we present that Deacon on YouTube.